Good evening, Bumblebee folks. I'm Alexa, the resident emo girl, back for another installment of the girl with more chosen family than birth family in her life, talking about family dynamics. Feel free to chuckle along with me, and welcome to the top 10 evil families from Texas you've never heard of. Number 10, Ma Balland. So Lucy Balland, also known as Ma Balland, was based in Fort Worth, Texas, and she and her offspring sold narcotics, including morphine, no-no snow, and spicy spoon juice. Lucy was often cast as the leader of the, Balland crime family, whose members were convicted of narcotics crimes at least 30 times, 30, between 1921 to 1947. In 1908, the family moved from Grandview to Fort Worth, eventually settling in the Arlington Heights neighborhood. In 1911, her son Charles, barely in the double digits of age, impaled another boy and was charged with causing physical harm, but later released on probation. Later that year, her daughter Willie, then years old, was caught as part of a shoplifting ring of a dozen girls. Police later said that Lucy had organized a shoplifting school for her daughters, with their brothers posing as store detectives. Willie and Cora were arrested for shoplifting from department stores in 1912, and Willie was arrested again in 1912 for possession of no-no snow, and in 1913 for stealing dresses. Willie and Cora were charged with theft again in 1914. Willie was later quoted in the Star-Telegram as saying that she was, 12 years old when she first tried morphine, then costing 25 cents for a big bottle. From 1921 to 1947, members of the family were convicted of narcotics crimes at least 30 times. Once again, 30. I had to say it twice, it's insane. In 1938, narcotics agents purchased and seized 2.3 kilograms of illicit substances from the family. Lucy, Willie, Joe Jr., Charles, Jacqueline, and Leslie were all arrested. Eesh, that's quite the family. Number 9, the Kelly family. So this was an American family of serial killers who operated between August and December 1887 near a town called Oak City, just south of the Kansas state border in no man's land, which is now known as the Oklahoma Panhandle. Yes, I know, I said Texas today. Don't worry. They did have some stuff going on there, just wait for it, promise. The family consisted of William Kelly, his wife Kate, his son Bill, also called Billy, and daughter Kit. Originally from Pennsylvania, the family is believed to have killed 11 wealthy travelers. According to 55-year-old William Kelly's confession, he and his family moved from the Pennsylvania mountains to Kansas in 1869. They moved around to different places along the southern border until eventually settling in no man's land, around 25 miles from Beaver, Oklahoma. Initially dealing with cattle, the Kellys soon opened a tavern where they housed fellow cattlers and travelers. In the span of a few months, though, a number of people had disappeared mysteriously along the road leading to the tavern. Despite this, nobody suspected the family of doing anything until around December of 1887, when the occupants suddenly left the house without notifying anybody. A short while after, a traveler from St. Louis named S.T. Gregg, who had visited the tavern a while before, decided to stop by and check on the house. Upon entry, a foul stench overtook him, coming from a hidden cellar underneath the house. The bodies of 3 men, already in an advanced state of decomposition, were discovered, as well as a trap door under the tavern's floor. Soon after the discoveries, information from Beaver came that all 4 members of the Kelly family had just passed through town a few days ago, en route to New Mexico. A posse of 20 men was quickly organized, and the family's trail led to Palo Duro Creek, from where it appeared that their route had changed towards Wheeler, Texas. I told you. Texas. After a while, the posse caught up with them and engaged in a 2-hour-long chase. Eventually, Kate Kelly's horse tripped and Kate fell to the ground, breaking her neck in the process. She was left behind, and a half an hour later, the vigilantes caught up with Bill and Kit, but William managed to escape. Upon capture, Kit began pleading for mercy, only to be told off by her brother for being as complicit in the killings as he was. Yeah, you guessed it, that was the end of the family. But according to a news report from contemporary media, an unnamed man from Kansas City, who had investigated the notorious Bender family's house and the rumors of their deaths numerous times, claims that the Kellys were in fact the Benders. He pointed out that both families' modus operandi, family unit numbers, and other evidences proved that they are one and the same. Oh, who were the Benders? Well, I'm glad you asked. Number 8, the Bender family. So this family, more well known as the Bloody Benders, were a family of serial killers in Labette County, Kansas, United States, that operated between May of 1871 till December of 1872. The family supposedly consisted of John Bender, his wife Elvira, their son John Jr., and daughter Kate. Contemporary newspaper accounts reported that the Benders' neighbors claimed John and Kate were actually husband and wife, possibly via a common law marriage, which is kind of icky. Estimates report that the Benders killed at least a dozen travelers and perhaps as many as 20 before they were discovered. The family's fate remains unknown, with theories ranging from a lynching to a successful escape. Much folklore and legend surround the Benders, making it difficult to separate, fact from fiction. It is believed that when a guest stayed at the Benders' bed and breakfast inn, the host would give the guest a seat of honor at the table that was positioned over a trap door into the cellar. With the victim's back to the curtain, Kate would distract the guest, while John or his son came from behind the curtain and struck the guest on the right side of the skull with a hammer. One of the women would cut the victim's throat to ensure death, and the body was then dropped through the trap door. Once in the cellar, the body would be stripped and later buried somewhere on the property. Probably in the orchard, you know. It's good for fertilizer. Although some of the victims were wealthy, others carried little value, and it's believed the family just killed for the fun of it. Alrighty, so what happened to them? Detectives following wagon tracks discovered that Bender's wagon, abandoned with a starving team of horses, with one of the mares not doing so well, just outside of the city limits of Thayer, which was 19 kilometers north of the inn. It was confirmed that the family had bought tickets on the Leavenworth, Lawrence, and Galveston Railroad for Humboldt, and at Chanute, John Jr. and Kate left the train and caught the MK&T train south to the terminus in Red River County near Denison, Texas. Haha, Texas, see? And after that, nobody knows. So I'm gonna go with the theory that they became the Kelly family. Number 7, the Parr Empire. Alrighty, so after all the mass killing families, time to refresh with a simple mob boss style situation, as a little palate cleanser, if you will. Operating in the early 1900s, the Parr machine functioned on bribery, graft, and illegal donations. Political support came from the southernmost counties in Texas, and the machine could produce large numbers of votes, both legal and illegal, from the impoverished and uneducated working class citizens. While the Parr machine had always asserted undue influence over the county's affairs, it was not until Archer Parr that its leadership felt safely secure to overwhelm the remaining independent farmers by appealing directly to the county's new majority by offering them jobs, and in some cases cash directly from the county coffers in exchange for political support. George Parr engaged in the graft, bribery, and fraud that are, often associated with political machines, and along with other large landowners and managers of landed estates owned by prominent Eastern businessmen, Parr helped develop the practice of working illegal citizens and later using them for advancing political interests. More importantly, his own political career included serving as both the Duval County judge and sheriff. He also owned the San Diego State Bank and the famous Dobie Ranch, including the Parr's Los Horcones Ranch. He was also a partner and silent partner of dozens of other businesses, which seems like a conflict of interest. He was convicted of tax evasion in 1932 and eventually served 9 months in federal correctional institution after violating his parole. Number 6, the Catt family. So, the Catt family, consisting of Ronald Scott Catt and eventually his 2 offspring, Hayden and Abigail, were responsible for a number of bank robberies in the Portland, Oregon, and Houston, Texas areas. After the death of his wife, Catt was facing financial difficulties due in part to his multiple substance addictions and unstable employment history. He decided to bolster the family's income by, why not, robbing banks. He and his family committed several robberies, all occurring while the family lived a seemingly typical middle-class American life. So originally they did it in Oregon, and then they decided, let's start fresh in Texas. So in 2012, Catt, now with the help of both of his offspring, decided to embark on a crime spree while the family kept up a facade of normality. The first robbery that Scott perpetrated with the help of his family occurred at a Comerica Bank in Harris County on August 9th. Scott and Hayden entered the bank wearing hats, sunglasses, surgical masks, gloves, and painter's coveralls, armed with lethal-looking, pew pew. Abigail waited outside in the family car with stolen license plates, and everybody got away. Now, the second robbery, which occurred on November 9th, took place at the First Community Credit Union in Katy. Now, because preliminary observations of the intended target showed a construction project was taking place nearby, Scott and Hayden wore bright orange safety vests and sunglasses to blend in with the construction workers, which makes sense. This time, Hayden wore a fake mustache, and Scott wore his familiar painter's mask. Abigail once again drove the getaway vehicle. Together, the 2 robberies netted the family around $170,000 from the Texas banks. Number 5, Mark Anthony Condit. I swear you'll understand why he's on the list by the end. So the Austin serial explosions occurred between March 2nd and March 21st of 2018 in Austin, Texas. In total, 5 package explosives exploded, ending the lives of 2 people and injuring another 5. The perpetrator, 23-year-old Mark Anthony Condit of can't say that name of that town. And the perpetrator was pulled over by police on March 21st and detonated an explosive inside his vehicle, killing himself and injuring a police officer. He was the eldest of 3 offspring and attended Austin Community College from 2010 to 2012, leaving without graduating but apparently in good academic standing. He was homeschooled by his mother, who in February of 2013 officially graduated him from high school. Yep, that was after his college stint, because that totally makes sense. He wrote a lot of really weird blog posts in 2012 where he identified as a conservative who was not that politically inclined. He argued for the death penalty and argued against same-sex marriages and schmeck offender registries. He was reportedly part of a club called the Righteous Invasion of Truth, and the club's members were homeschooled young people. They also practiced homeschooling, practiced survivalism, and held Bible studies. Hey, I see the evil in the family, don't you? Number 4, Edward Harold Bell. So he was an American schmeck offender, killer, and the first fugitive to be featured in the Texan rendition of America's Most Wanted. According to his claims, his father, an oil field worker, frequently moved the family to various towns surrounding the Houston area, and allegedly suffered physical harm both from him, his Scoutmasters of the Boy Scouts and one of his cousins. Bell would also claim in later interviews that his father encouraged him to do violent crime, ranging from robbing banks and taking advantage of women sexually, in addition to encouraging him to take his own life. After graduation, he found work as a licensed driver and married his first wife in San Marcos, with the newlyweds then moving to Western Texas, where they had 3 offspring. Following his capture in Panama City in 1993, he was extradited, convicted, and sentenced to a 70-year term for the killing of a Marine in 1978, and later confessed to killing 11 girls throughout the 70s. Okay, maybe don't claim to be from the Bell family if you ever go near Texas. Number 3. Kaufman County killings. So in 2013, 2 prosecutors and a prosecutor's wife were killed in Kaufman County, Texas. Eric Lyle Williams, a former lawyer and justice of the peace, whose theft case was prosecuted by 2 of the victims, was tried, found guilty, and sentenced to death for 2 of the deaths. He was also charged with the killing of a prosecutor, Mark Hasse, but a decision was made to not prosecute him as he'd already received a death sentence for the others. His wife, Kimberly Irene Kim Williams, was tried separately and sentenced to 40 years in prison. Hey look, a family can be 2 people. Number 2. The killings of Rick and Susanna Walmsley. Alrighty, so this is more of like a chosen family than anything, and as somebody with more chosen family than actual family, sadly that counts in my book. Rick and Susanna were killed on December 11th of 2003 in their home in Mansfield, Texas, as part of a conspiracy involving their son Andrew and 2 others. So originally they were hit by a tiny explosive and impaled to death in their home by Andrew's friend, Susanna Toledano. The killings were part of a scheme orchestrated by Andrew, his girlfriend Chelsea, and Susanna to collect the $1.65 million estate. The 3 conspirators also wanted to kill Andrew's older sister, Sarah, but she wasn't home that night. It's one twisted chosen family. Number 1, the Bogle family. So, when Bobby was, let's say, that much old in 1969, he woke up on Christmas morning to a heavy metal wrench in a plain brown paper bag under the tree. Later that day, he and his brothers used the wrench to break into a local grocery store and steal pop, making his father, a career criminal who went by the name Rooster, proud. This family crime spree spanned 4 generations and crossed multiple states, from Texas to Oregon, beginning in the early 1920s with ancestors who were moonshiners and carnival workers, and involved hundreds of felonies covering just about every genre of lawlessness, from death and sodomy to burglary and insurance fraud. They stole everything from chickens and cows to lumber and metal, and once broke into a government-run fish hatchery just to gorge on salmon. When the children were barely in middle school, they were already stealing 18-wheelers. Unlike other vicious families on this list, being part of a close, loving, and supportive family is what made them what they are. Granted, nobody in the family was especially bright. They killed people and then would make calls to their mother from the victim's home phone, and they once melted a stolen safe with a torch and tried to spend the burden money. I feel like y'all get the gist of it, but it's quite the family legacy. And that brings us to the end of our time, so if you enjoyed my ramblings, could you help us out by giving this video a like, subscribing if you aren't already, hit the bell for more, and I'll see y'all next time I buzz in over here at Bumblebee.